On the reaction this week,
Martin Bashir blames racism for the row over his Diana interview, while the BBC scrabbles to cover up the cover-up.
and Sir Keir Starmer promises to ban all transgender conversion therapy, but does he include parents and teachers in that?
And with the UK population set to boom thanks to unprecedented levels of migration, how is the country supposed to cope?
And was there really no choice other than Alison Hammond to take over from the late, great Paul O'Grady on For the Love of Dogs?
Hello and welcome to The Reaction with me, Sarah Vine.
And me, Andrew Pearce. We're going to be here every Wednesday on the Daily Mail's YouTube channel, so make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And thank you all for your comments and emails about last week's show. Here's the reaction to the reaction.
Well, last week we asked whether it was insensitive for Harry and Meghan to be pictured hobnobbing with the Prime Minister of Jamaica, a Republican, when King Charles was about to undergo surgery. Many of you wrote calling for the couple to be stripped of their royal titles, including Sandra, who emailed to say, "I'm very much in favour of Harry and Meghan losing their titles. They aren't fit to call themselves royal. They're an embarrassment. I feel sorry for the King."
However, Jeanette from YouTube had this to say: they are entitled to do and go wherever they choose. Why all the negative comments from people that don't even know them? They have the right to pick and choose whatever they want to participate in. No, you can't have your cake and eat it. Anyway.
But they do.
Do.
And eat a lot of cake. And reaction to our discussion around the woke agenda and politics, Helen on YouTube says, Sarah Vine is spot on. All this polarised politics is doing nothing for the majority of people in the country, whatever their political persuasion. I've been a Labour voter in most general elections, but I doubt that I will be in future. There's no way I'll vote Conservative either, following the mess they created under Boris.
And on the discussion around the reintroduction of national service, Justin on YouTube says, it's easy for Sarah to say bring back national service, being someone who would be protected from the draft, only because I'm so incredibly old, but my children wouldn't be protected from the draft.
They wouldn't. I want you to be drafted because I want you to be Sergeant Major Sarah. So thank you for all your emails, all your comments. We want you to keep them coming. We read them all, and we will be featuring the very best every week. So now let's kick off with this week's royal reaction.
So, in emails that the BBC has finally released, despite spending 200,000 of our money trying not to, Martin Bashir blames racism for the row around his interview with Princess Diana. Andrew, do you think this might be right, or is that just another of his excuses?
It's pitiful and it's pathetic and it's stupid and it's nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with his colour. We've got Clive Murray presenting the 10 o'clock news every day. A man who's very proud of his black origin. It's stupid. Martin Bashir is guilty of some of the worst lies told by a journalist to try to secure a scoop that we've ever come across, including confecting a story that Tiggy Legg-Burke, who was the nanny to Harry and William, had an abortion paid for by Prince Charles. There were confected bank statements suggesting that that Patrick Jeffson, who was Diana's private secretary, was leaking stories about it to the press, feeding into the princess's paranoia and her vulnerable mental state. He is a disgrace to the BBC and he's a disgrace to our profession.
So I think it's just, but also anyone who knows anything about the BBC knows that it's scrupulous about things like racism, and they're just so careful about it.
The emails that have been published in the last 24 hours, 10,000 documents, have come to light because of the extraordinary campaigning by the investigative journalist Andy Webb. Andy's been on this for more than 15 years and joins us now. Andy, congratulations. This is just for sheer perseverance. And I know taking on the BBC, which tries to crush all resistance, is quite something. But why is it important to people watching this, listening to this, Andy? Because have you potentially identified, we know there was a cover-up in '96 about how Bashir got the story. Have they been covering up again, covering up over the cover-up?
Well, I suspect, my suspicion, and I'm a journalist like you guys, so that, I make that absolutely clear. It is my suspicion. But yes, I think they have. And why this particularly matters is it is not a rehash of something that happened 29 years ago. It's not to try and put further detail on exactly what the forged bank statements looked like or who gave them or what have you. This is to do with a strategy which I fully believe was dreamt up and enacted in 2020 in order to keep the entire scandal, the whole scandal, still under wraps as it had been for 25 years. So this was something that was put into play a little over 3 years ago, importantly, by the people who are still running the BBC today. It's those people who have seen fit to spend, I say, and I think there's evidence to say this, around £250,000 on preventing this material becoming public. And for heaven's sake, I mean, this is not just the fact that it is in effect public money, license fee money that's being spent. It's being spent by, if you like, I've often seen it describe itself as the largest news gathering organisation in the world, the very last institution that should be, with whatever kind of money, whoever's money it is, trying to actually stifle the dissemination and publication of very, very, important information.
The BBC has said in the last 24 hours these documents are irrelevant, they don't matter. If that's the case, why did they spend so much public money trying to suppress and block their release? Because clearly there's something in them they don't want us to see, would be my estimation.
Well, that would be my estimation too. And I would say, again, what possible justification do I have for my suspicions? Well, here are a few. I mean, it's now, when this material finally emerged yesterday, that was 970 days since my FOI request had gone in. The law says they should be dealt with in 20 days. Now, why is it taking so long? Because, well, all sorts of reasons. We're currently partway through a tribunal process where there is a judge and 2 lay assessors. And the judge has said loud and clear that he and his colleagues have serious concern about the way the BBC has handled itself during this whole process. In his judgment, it is even fair to say that he allows suspicion of the BBC's good faith in this. As I say, judges phrase things very carefully, and I want to stress that. But that is the clear implication of what he said. So those 2 things being the case, would it be fair? Would it be sensible? Would it actually be judicious, as it were, to be suspicious? Well, I think it would. And that's why when one is presented with 10,000 pages of documents, which are redacted top to bottom and side to side, we simply must see what is behind that redaction.
Do you think there will be names that are still there at the BBC who could get themselves into trouble? And do you think there will be instructions to Bashir that might, suggest that it wasn't just him acting on his own?
The second question, I would say no. I don't suspect that is what we're looking at. I don't think it's a reference back to what actually happened back in 1996. As to the first question, I think absolutely yes. It is people very, very much who are still in power at the BBC who I fully believe were involved in this. Yes, absolutely, and that is why it's so important.
We've seen, Andy, in the last few weeks and months, this extraordinary collapse in trust around the post office, which used to be seen as a rather venerable institution. The BBC, the reason the Bashir interview went so big worldwide was because it was from the fabled BBC, the trusted BBC. If there is now evidence that you're uncovering of a further cover-up, how damaging will that be to the reputation and integrity of the BBC, and how much more damage can that institution sustain?
I think it would inevitably prove extremely damaging, and I think it's actually worth bearing in mind something like this, that we in this country, we have, and I think to a large degree rightly, have very, very fond notions of the BBC, the shipping forecast and all the rest of it. Around the world, I don't think it's quite the same. I think in a lot of places, and I travel a lot for my job, around the world currently, if you ask somebody in Manila or Minnesota, the BBC is, hey, yeah, isn't that the outfit who took down Princess Diana? I think I heard of that. BBC. And why is that? It's because they watch The Crown. Now, The Crown is essentially setting the historical template for us, and indeed it will remain for years, if not decades. So that, to that degree already, I think the BBC has taken a major hit. Whether the story that I've been pursuing, if it comes to the fruition that it might, whether that sort of spreads much beyond the British borders, who knows? But no, it's just not great. And just let me very, very quickly say that the position we're now in, with the judge issuing his criticism and these very legitimate questions being raised about why do you spend £250,000 to keep irrelevant stuff, under wraps. This is without, in effect, looking underneath a single one of these emails. The 10,000 documents are still pretty much tightly wrapped in their redaction. So all of this awful publicity, this awful situation the BBC has got itself into, is without even seeing what really might be at stake here.
Well, thank you, Andy. I mean, I think you're right. I think what's going to happen is that the British public will become less and less trusting of the BBC, so. and it's done it to itself. Thank you so much, Andy Webb. Thank you,
and well done, Andy.
And well done, yes,
for what you've done.
What a tenacious man you are.
Journalism at its best.
Yes, thank you.
Now, the BBC have responded, of course, and they say this in their statement. Throughout this process, we have taken our responsibilities to comply with the directions of the tribunal extremely seriously. Therefore, we've today released approximately 3,000 documents, some 10,000 pages, to Mr. Webb. We've made redactions where necessary, consistent with Freedom of Information Act. There is nothing to support the allegations the BBC acted in bad faith in 2020. We maintain the suggestion is simply wrong. Of course, Sarah, if there weren't so many redactions, there wouldn't be suspicion that they have done something.
Anyway, let us know your reaction to Martin Bashir's claims and the BBC's reluctance to release information about the affair at reaction@dailymail.co.uk, or comment below. And don't forget to tune in for more royal debate on Thursday's episode of our smash hit royal show, Palace Confidential, on the Daily Mail's Royal YouTube channel.
So the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has promised to ban all forms of conversion therapy with an emphasis on trans therapy if he's elected. He says it's psychologically damaging abuse. Sarah, I'm worried about this because I've got a horrible feeling where this is going to go. I've talked a lot to people in the LGBT, whatever it is now, Q community.
You are in the LGBT
because I'm in part of the community, and I was an early member of Stonewall campaigning for equality. My worry is a catch-all conversion therapy sounds great because we don't want people who are trans to be bullied into being told that, no, actually you don't need to change your gender, you don't need to be in a different body. My worry is that if a teacher has a conversation like this with a child, or whether this comes into the home, whether a parent has that conversation, they're going to be penalised. Because it could happen, and it might happen, and that's very worrying.
Well, this is what's happening already in Scotland.
Quite.
So it's quite interesting because it shows how Keir Starmer is sort of looking towards the Scottish National Party to sort of do little deals together. We can already see that.
Taste of things to come.
Yes, taste of things to come. My worry is that, of course, nobody wants trans people to feel that they can't, become what they want to become. But when you're dealing with children, especially underage children, you have to be very careful because they're very easily swayed by trends and peer pressure and things like that. So you need to have safeguards in place to make sure that what they're asking for is what they actually genuinely want. And we've seen cases like Keira Bell, who took her case to the High Court, who transitioned from being a girl to becoming a boy, had irreversible hormone treatment, and I'm not sure if she had surgery, but anyway, she had irreversible hormone therapy and is now, infertile, has facial hair, has body hair, and regrets it and cannot undo that. And she said famously that, she felt that she had mental health issues and that she was depressed, and that perhaps if she'd been treated for depression, or if she'd had some sort of alternative therapy to people simply saying, OK, here we go, let's turn you into a man, she wouldn't have gone down this route. Now, I think under these proposals, that would probably fall under the remit of conversion therapy. Yeah. So she wouldn't have been able to access that alternative.
The other reason I'm worried about it, Sarah, is I don't trust Sir Keir Starmer on this issue at all, because we know he famously said, asked if a man can have a cervix. That's not a straightforward question. Yes, it is. Straightforward question with a straightforward answer. A man cannot have a cervix. No. And he's also said that 1 in every 1,000 women has a penis. I don't trust him. I think he will be too easily led by, shall we say, the extremists in the trans lobby, as opposed to sensible people like J.K. Rowling, who we've discussed here before, who is heroic in my view, because she stands up for women-only spaces.
And people like Debbie Hayton,
who talked very movingly in the paper this week.
Who did a brilliant piece in the paper this week about how she is a woman, but she was a man, and she, the difficulties, it's complicated, and she was really, she's still married to the person that she married when she was a man, and all the sort of. So I think there is a lot of important questions here. It's an important issue, but I think you're right. If it gets hijacked by the sort of, extreme wing of the trans lobby, then it won't have a good outcome.
And we've seen with the Canterbury MP, Rosie Duffield, Labour, the abuse she's got from her own side, from women in her own party, political party, women MPs, because she's dared to take the view that you and I may hold on the trans issue, which is why, again, I'm very worried about Keir Starmer on this, that he's going to be captured, and then teachers doing their job saying, actually, you may be a bit too young to think about this. Let's have a proper grown-up conversation about it. And also
parents need to know as well, because parents have to be part of it as well. It's not, there's a lot of, if you look on TikTok and places like that, there's an awful lot of a big narrative in this thing that, you have to reject your parents, you have to reject your family. But if you're going to make a big decision like this, then surely you want your family to be on side, and you want them to support you, and you want them to help them. But the other thing is that, again, with Keir Starmer, and this is a broader political point, is that he always goes for the path of least resistance. He's too scared to make the complicated, difficult arguments. And if you're going to be Prime Minister, and you're going to be on an international scale, and you're going to be making really important decisions, you have to be able to make those difficult arguments. You have to be able to push back.
And this is all happening in the week we've
discovered. It's a character question.
It is.
Do you know what I mean? It's a question of character.
Which is why I don't trust him. And this is all happening, of course, in the week we've discovered a 4-year-old going to school without the other teachers and kids in the school knowing, and it was a little boy going to school as a girl. Yeah. This is not where we should be going with children. They are children. Let them grow up as children. Let them be boys and let them be girls. And what Starmer has to clarify is, what age is he talking about, this conversion therapy? Because I actually don't think it should begin till at the very, very least you're 18. The very least.
Well, the problem is the people who support it say that if you wait until you're 18 or 21, and then you've gone through puberty in whatever biological sex you were born in, and therefore it's much harder to reverse, to make the changes that you want to make. And I do understand that point, but the point is that you can't delay puberty indefinitely in people.
Well, they can, because they pump some of these kids full of drugs.
But also, you have to wait for their brain to catch up with with the rest of their body. It's a really difficult area, and I just think these sort of blanket pronouncements are they don't do anyone any favours. They don't do trans people any favours, and they don't help the situation. They just all they're designed to do is to make Keir Starmer look like he's super woke.
And ironically, backing the SNP when we know that Nicola Sturgeon's whole reputation started collapsing soon after her position on the
aligning yourself with the SNP in that way on these issues, on these culture issues, is quite interesting. Let's look at the SNP. I mean, we've got Nicola Sturgeon at the COVID inquiry telling everyone that she deleted all her WhatsApps. Confirming it. There's a whole big cloud over them about funding of the party, about whether there was misappropriation of funds. There's all sorts of other little clouds. I mean, I just think...
Funny time to embrace Miss Sturgeon, whose halo has firmly slipped. So what do you think about this? Let us know your thoughts at reaction@dailymail.uk, or you comment below. According
According to new figures, migrants will account for 92% of the UK's population boom in the coming years, as it's set to grow by 6.6 million to 73.7 million by 2036. Andrew, this is a huge issue, isn't it?
Well, look,
is anyone actually listening?
No, this country is bursting at the seams, in my view. I take a more hardline view than you on this. We are bursting at the seams. We cannot. Last year, legal migration was nearly 800,000, which is a major town. This is predicting 6.5 million in 11 years. That is 6 times Birmingham. So where are the homes coming from? Where are the hospitals coming from? The school places. And how many of these people, Sarah, will speak English? How many of them will make any effort whatsoever to integrate into our culture? In my view, not enough, because we see from these projected figures that a lot of them will come from countries which don't speak English as a first tongue. And I just think it's going to cause huge problems with social cohesion. We've seen towns and cities like Bradford, Rotherham and Rochdale change beyond belief. And only this week, Sarah, a Manchester Labour MP introducing a Labour candidate in Rochdale delivered half his speech in Urdu. I'm sorry, to camera. That means, because I think the population in Rochdale, the ethnic population is about 35-40%. 60% minimum will not have understood a word of that speech. Yeah. That's the white majority. I mean, that is very, very worrying if that's where we're going.
I suppose the question is, why are people coming here?
Because we're a soft touch.
Well, but also because we need them here. Because we won't do the jobs that they will do.
We don't need 6.5 million.
Well, okay, but fine. A lot of these people coming are nurses, they're carers, they're cleaners, they're doing the menial tasks that British people don't want to do. So, I mean, what are we supposed to do? I mean, you can't not have any nurses in any hall. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
We don't need 6.5 million nurses.
Well, but the point is that where are all the Brits doing the jobs that they're coming from? Because now we've got this new rule that you have to earn 38,000.
Yeah.
So, but, there are now barriers to entry.
Good.
But so if they're still projected to come, there's a problem with us basically importing people to do the jobs that the Brits don't want to do. Isn't that something we should talk about and confront?
But the figure of 6.6 million, they'll just be the legal ones, Sarah.
Exactly.
They'll just be the legal ones.
I know.
And are we still going to have a flotilla of small boats floating across the channel?
Well, the small boats is tiny numbers compared to this.
But that's 30,000 a year.
And these are not people who are coming from Europe. These are people who are coming from outside of Europe.
Well,
so what we're doing is we're importing all our labour, which is ridiculous because we've already got enough people in this country to do. What are our unemployment figures going to do? You've got to understand that there's a reason why these people are coming, because there's jobs for them.
Yeah.
And there's places for them. And there's a demand for them.
And they know they'll get benefits.
Exactly.
And they know they'll get council housing.
So there needs to be there needs to be a complicated and well thought out remedy to this, and it has to involve the Brits actually doing something more than just sitting at home watching their widescreen TVs.
We've talked about this before, that the benefit system shouldn't make it more attractive for people to work at home. There's a part of my family who works only part-time in her hotel because it's more advantageous financially to work part-time and claim benefits. How ridiculous is that? And she's thinking about her children, so she's obviously going to go the route which maximises income. But part of the reason we voted for Brexit, and it's the 4th anniversary today of that famous moment when we came out of the European Union officially at 11 p.m, 4 years ago today, was because we wanted to control our borders. And many people who voted for Brexit, I would argue, Sarah, said there's too much immigration coming in from Eastern Europe. Thank you, Tony Blair, because he did it deliberately. But I think 6.5 million, I think it could cause potential civil unrest.
Well, especially if there's no integration. I mean, I think this is the problem. Immigration is one thing, but if people don't integrate with the host culture, which is a British liberal democracy, effectively, then that is going to cause huge issues.
If you've got a Labour MP making a speech to camera, last time I looked, it had been viewed 450,000 times. Not many MPs get people viewing their speeches on social media 450,000 times. Half of it in a foreign tongue. That is a very, very disturbing trend, and that will be exacerbated if we accept 6.5 million people in the next 11 years. Where are they all going to go? Where are we going to go?
Well, I mean, this is the other thing.
Shall we go together?
Some bloke was arrested, wasn't he, this week for trying to smuggle people out of Britain. So maybe that'll be us trying to get into the EU. But we do need to take responsibility. You can't just blame the immigrants, Andrew. You just can't.
I blame the system.
Because they're here because the system makes it easy for them to come, and because we want their cheap labour, and that's the honest truth, and we need to face up to that. That's our fault, not theirs.
Well, I'm very worried about it.
Anyway, let us know what you think at The Reaction.
Do you agree with Sarah? Do you agree with me?
Of course you agree with him.
I think more people will agree with me.
UK.
It's not very. I'm often not popular. People say, "Oh, you're a horrible, nasty right winger." That's what a lot of people think.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Let us know what you think at reaction@dailymail.co.uk or comment below.
Big emotive issue, I think.
Very emotive issue.
Now, Alison Hammond, you know her? Very irritating. She's been announced as the new presenter of For the Love of Dogs. She's replacing the late, great and much-loved Paul O'Grady, who sadly died last year. Well, for the love of God, Sarah, if you pardon the pun, was there nobody else who could have done it?
Is that why we're doing this item, so that you could do that?
It is a great line, if you don't mind that. I thought of that myself,
I think
too.
the thing about Alison Hammond is she's got that thing that Claire Balding had a few years ago, which is that she's, for some reason, everyone thinks she needs to present all of the shows.
Yeah.
She did very well, didn't she? She had a moment where she sort of stood in for, was it Holly Willoughby?
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
She was on This Morning.
Yeah. And everyone thought, oh, she's quite good. And now she's been given a million jobs. But I do think someone like Julian Clary would have been better. I don't think she has any...
He loves dogs, Julian Clary. Long history.
When I think Alison Hammond, I don't think massive dog lover. I think fun lady who bounces around.
She does bounce around, and she's entertaining, and I don't think I've met her, and she's very popular, clearly. But you just thought somebody who's known for their love of dogs.
Well, I mean, I often put dogs on my page. I love dogs. I'd love to present that show.
I was just about to say, I feel an agenda here. I think Sarah
Move over, Alison.
How on earth did you come up with Alison Hammond when Sarah Vine could have done the job? She knows a lot about old dogs.
But
you have a dog?
I have a dog. I've had several dogs. I have a dog called Muffin. She's a Lhasa Apso.
She's very sweet.
She's very sweet. She's a princess.
Do you think we'll get used to her and she'll settle into it and it'll be okay?
Well, I just hope for her sake that she doesn't sort of overkill. You know, there is a moment where everyone goes, oh God, not so and so again.
Well, I rather feel that about that actress who won the Oscar in about Queen Anne. She just was it?
you had to go
Olivia
about
Colman.
Olivia Colman.
So she's on everything.
You had to go at her last week as well.
She's on everything. We just sick to death of her. Give her somebody else a chance. And that would be my thing about Alison Hammond. She's just on, it seemed, quite a lot.
Yeah.
And when did we last see Julian Clary on primetime television? He was brilliant in the pantomime.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
He's quite good on the Twitters. But yes, Julian Clary would have been better. Well, he certainly would have been... But actually,
what she really means is Sarah Vine would have been better.
No, but Julian Clary is a national treasure. Is it he who described himself as a stately homo, or was that someone else?
No, it was him.
It was him, yes.
Yeah.
I love that line. That's a brilliant line. He is a stately homo, and he was a great friend of Paul.
And in the pantomime, which was at the Palladium, which was packed every night, twice a day, he paid tribute to Paul O'Grady every night. Yeah. And it was really rather moving, actually. So he was the obvious.
Yes.
And he would have ticked the diversity box, because Alison Hammond ticks the diversity box. She's a woman, she's black, she's a large lady. Yeah. Julian Clary ticks the diversity box. Gay as a goose. The other problem for Alison Hammond is she is stepping into really rather large, enormous shoes. I'm not sure I'd want to, actually, because I don't think anybody can follow Paul O'Grady.
If she makes a mistake that dog lovers don't approve of, she'll be in terrible trouble.
She will.
Because we're tricky people, dog lovers.
And are you glued to the show? Were you glued to the show with Paul O'Grady?
I really liked it. Yeah. I used to really enjoy it, yeah.
I'm so sorry he died.
I watched lots of dog shows.
He was too young.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Crufts?
No, but I do watch it.
Well, let me tell you, if you go to Crufts, it stinks.
One of my dogs
did. Dog poo, because I'm afraid they're not very well trained. And if you go around the back where they're in their cage,
they are well trained. It's just they're nervous.
You need to go in Wellingtons.
Dogs will poo if they're nervous. One of my dogs did win Westminster Dog of the Year.
Yeah, that's because you got me to vote for it. She got everyone to vote for it. She
prize.
was shocking. These politicians and their wives, you know. We were on a 3-line whip. Vote for my dog. So I did, probably about 7 times. So probably you won it under a false pretence. And it wasn't this dog either, was it? It was a previous pooch.
It was a fix-up. It was obviously vote
Tories rig election shock.
Exactly.
Shock horror.
There you go. Anyway.
Yeah. So what do you think of Alison Hammond? Is she the right person for the job? Do you think she's a good choice or should it have gone to someone else?
Me.
Julian Clary? Sarah Vine. Definitely Sarah Vine. And you get...
I will bring Muffin on the show next week.
And you'd never have to buy another tin of dog food.
No.
Just imagine.
She doesn't eat dog food in a tin. I make it for her.
Oh, please.
She has homemade dog food.
Well,
that's what a dog lover is.
That's more than you ever did for your husband.
Exactly.
She
gets chicken and rice with vegetables.
Oh.
And probiotics.
Oh. She had a better life than me. I think I'm coming round. Let us know what you think. You can email reaction@dailymail.co.uk or, of course, please comment below. Sarah Vine, dog lover. Well, this week, my allergic reaction, and I make no apology for it, is the President of the United States, utterly incoherent, firstly speaking at a brewery in Wisconsin, and then a little later, well, look, why don't you take a look and see for yourself?
The beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lake.
And then, and as if that wasn't bad enough, just a few days
I have to
later...
say, he did sound like he'd had rather a lot of his...
Yeah. Well, so first he'd say, had he been at the beer in that brewery? Because, my God, he was incoherent. But then, a couple of days later, at an event in South Carolina where he's talking about the killing of 3 American servicemen, this is what he sounded like.
And one last thing, I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yeah.
And I've asked you for a moment of silence for all 3 of those fallen souls.
Jeez.
And we shall respond. God bless you all. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I wish we didn't have to go.
The thing is, you could almost, it's not funny.
You could hear that woman saying, geez.
Yeah.
I have to say, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not funny.
Because
it's not
he's the
funny
President of the United
Yeah.
States, he's the most powerful man in the world, politician in the world. And what is really particularly unfunny is the Democrats are about to get him to run for a second term, another 4 years. He can't do it. He's got mental issues,
Well, I mean, in that
he's
first
cognitive
one, he
issues.
sounded like he was drunk.
On the beer.
I mean,
had he been in that brewery for a bit too long?
I didn't even know what he was saying.
No.
He wasn't making any sense. It was as though he didn't know who he was, where he was, what day it was, or anything.
The Republicans are going to play those tapes again and again, and responding to the biggest loss of American military life for some years.
Also,
and it can barely even reach the microphone.
But Andrew, we've got all this stuff at the moment in the news about everyone must prepare for war, Russia, blah blah blah. This is what the Americans are putting up to defend themselves with.
Because
the guy doesn't know what day of the week it is.
He's in charge of the American military. Yeah. God help us.
I know, exactly. He's got his finger on the nuclear button. That man has got his finger on the nuclear button. That's not okay.
He has to go, and they have to retire him, and the First Lady has to do the right thing and say, Joe, honey, you've got to stand down.
It will come to us all.
Yeah, it'll come to us all.
Anyway, I completely agree. And the thing is, what is extraordinary is that
it's going to make Donald Trump look even more presidential.
Also, we keep seeing these clips. I mean, this is not the first time he's done something.
Apparently, it didn't even make big news in America because it happens so often.
People just look at him and go, "Oh, there's
dear old Joe,
dear old Joe,
dopey Joe."
I know, but it's not okay. You're absolutely right. Do you want to know what's getting under my nose? Vapes. Oh. I just don't understand why Rishi is dying on this hill. It makes no sense to me at all. I understand vapes are horrid, and I completely. He's banning vapes.
Disposable vapes, isn't
he? He's going to ban disposable vapes.
Apparently, that's what kids buy.
It is what kids buy. I know this because one of my kids, my other kid doesn't buy vapes, but one of my kids has always bought nasty, cheap disposable vapes, even when she wasn't allowed to, because kids are like that if they're a bit rebellious. But the thing is, there are a lot of kids who use vapes instead of smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And actually, because of the way the vape market has been so poorly regulated thus far, so I do think there's an argument for doing something about vapes, but I think this is a slightly shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted moment, because there's a lot of kids out there now who are now totally addicted to nicotine.
Yeah.
And who, if you take away their vapes, will just end up smoking fags.
Yeah, which is much worse.
Sort of mad. So I think the only people who are really going to benefit from this are the tobacco industry, who will go, yay, thanks for getting all these kids addicted. Also, now we can give them cigarettes.
I know the Prime Minister's looking around for a narrative to define his government, but do we really want to see the British Prime Minister talking about, and we're going to ban disposable vapes? Aren't there bigger issues for him to be engaging with?
I really do think so. I mean, I know
this is one for the Health Secretary, isn't it?
It is one for the Health Secretary. I know that Rishi has this clean living thing. He does all the fasting, and he's
36 hours.
All of that.
Could you fast for 36 hours?
I don't think so. No. Have you ever done it?
No, ridiculous idea.
No, I don't think. Certainly not once a week.
I know, and of course he wants to stop children smoking. So all very laudable.
Yes.
But
what you need to do to stop children smoking is you need to enforce the ban on buying vapes and cigarettes under the age of 16, which currently doesn't happen. You go to most newsagents will sell a 14-year-old
a vape shop near me.
Yeah.
It is like an old-fashioned sweet shop.
Yeah.
It is a blaze of colour.
A blaze of colours, yeah.
All these different flavours, bubble gum and raspberry. Who are they aimed at?
Yeah.
Not people our age.
What you need to do is to give the police the resources to make sure that they can stop these kids from buying the things that they shouldn't be buying. Banning things doesn't... The thing about banning things, especially with kids, and the thing is, it is
makes
kids who are smoking.
Exactly.
They think, it's even cooler now than it was before.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thought. Anyway, that's it for today. Join us again next week if you can for more reaction to the stories making the headlines.
And make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. How could you miss Sarah Vine? See you again.
I'll bring the dog in next week.
Yes, do. See you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.